So how many of you work in artificial intelligence, not as on the technical, you work on the technical side, yeah? How many of you know, good, how many of you know about AI, what it is? That's good, fantastic. So I know how to pitch it. Right, okay. So artificial intelligence, in a nutshell, is, we have loads of definitions, but in my view, is creating an artifact that does what a human being would normally do, okay? The problem is that what we see right now is sci-fi, because we read the papers, the media don't help, we think of Terminator, we think of a world coming to an end, because this is how the media are sadly portraying artificial intelligence. But that's not really the truth, because artificial intelligence is what helps you when you want to use Google Maps, is what drives digital advertising, so the adverts that you see online, is what helps organizations already be more efficient. So artificial intelligence is here, and it's not a new thing at all. It has existed for a long time. And actually, it was a lot of women doing it a while back. Coding was a female job years ago. It was all women. Do you know why? Because it wasn't sexy. So a long time ago, AI coding was seen as secretarial work. Therefore, nobody cared. But then IBM came along and they said, we can make a lot of money out of this. Let's turn it into a very sexy managerial profession. And guess what happened? The women disappeared and the men took over. So it's a new phenomenon that AI is so male-dominated. When I go to, recently, I was a speaker I went to talk to developers in a Nordic country, where you think, oh God, there'll be women. In reality, there was like 4 women out of 400. And they're all developers. So we see this in engineering right now, but in reality, this is like a very new thing. And why is that? Why has IBM come around and changed the perspective around artificial intelligence? Because artificial intelligence is not just technology. It's more than that. So if there is one thing that I would like you to go home with, is the understanding that when we're talking about artificial intelligence now, we're talking about something which is much more than technology. We're talking about power. Globally, because I don't know if you've noticed that there is a race in the world between China and the US. It's transformative because it will change the labor market dramatically, in a good and in a bad. But when it changes the labor market, countries change. And when countries change, things happen, like populism. So when I say it's transformative, it's really, really transformative. And if we don't understand the scale of it and the power of it, then we can't, as women, tackle it. So first thing, AI is much more than technology. It's about power. And we, as women, we know, and there's a lot of women in this room, we know a lot about power, or lack of it. So we have an advantage in this, because we can grasp what we're really talking about. We're talking about access to power. The other reason why it's power, so it's geopolitical, it's global, it's transformative. The other reason why it's about power is because one of the reasons why AI is so powerful right now is because of one thing called data. Now, data is collected everywhere. Every single point, every time you walk, every time you get into the train, every time you do anything in your smart home or your connected car, your data is collected, analyzed. studied, scrutinized. But there is a problem. People say data is neutral. Data is not. Because if I choose you to be in my database, I have a power over you because I decide that you are going to be in a database that I choose and I analyze. If we do not understand the politics of data classification, data is not a neutral thing. Choosing some data means that you are silencing some other data. Therefore, again, we are talking about power. And then we come to bias. Right? Alexa, do this for me. We are raising generations of young men telling a female voice what to do. But there is more. These voices, they flirt. They really do. They're not there to tell you what to do. They are there to serve. It's a new form of digital servitude. And the younger generations, they are getting used to it. How much is this changing the relationship between children and their mothers and their fathers and their friends and their girlfriends and their boyfriends? How is a young woman at the age of 10 or 11 or 12 growing up thinking that there is a gendered virtual assistant with a sexy female voice that flirts with you and serves you all the time, that is there, available when you need it? How terrible is that? And all these things are so important that we really need to understand it. And again, it has to do with power. Now, artificial intelligence is actually a very good thing. It's great. And do you know why? Because you can improve medicine, you can have personalized medicine, personalized healthcare. You can make life easier, reduce waste, improve the environment. There are so many interesting and incredible things that you can do. But we have to own this narrative. And we as women, and this is where the inequality comes in, we have to be not just the ones designing these algorithms, which is very important, and I'll come to that, but we also have to be the ones at every level of a business deciding what these algorithms are used for. And I would say that deciding what AI is for is even more important than fighting an algorithmic bias. Because you can have the most perfect algorithm, but then use it for something that is not good at all. So the idea that we can just fix an algorithm, sorry, that's not enough for me. Who is deciding then because a technology is available, then we have to use it? Who said that? Who is deciding what we're using it for? And in fact, people talk about AI ethics. And I say, whose ethics? Is it my ethics? Is it your ethics? Or is it the ethics of Google? Or is it the ethics of the 5 white men on a board deciding that for me? So it's good that we are talking about ethics, and we must, especially after what happened with Facebook, with Cambridge Analytica, which in the UK has had some horrible consequences. It's good that we talk about that with Facebook and online and political manipulation. We have and we must talk about ethics. But we need to challenge whose ethics are we talking about? When I was a child, I used to take on the streets with my mum. She was feminist. She still is. Crazy one. And I remember that we used to say we were in the streets. And we used to say, whose streets? Our streets. To an extent, it's the same thing. Whose ethics is our ethics? Who's decided the values? People say AI has to be for the common good. Which common good? AI has to be transparent, responsible, trustworthy. According to whom? What are the values underpinning this? So this is why understanding what AI is, the fact that it's here already, the fact that it's very much about power and how much is reshaping our world, this is something that we need to be involved in. So when our businesses deploy and use artificial intelligence, yes, obviously we have to look at the algorithms. But also we have to be the ones saying, hold on a moment, what are you using it for? What is the governance underpinning all this? How are citizens involved in the decisions that we make about this? How are employees involved in the use of the technology that they produce? Amazon employees, they produced a software for facial recognition called Recognition. And they said to the business, hold on a moment, we are not happy with you selling that software to the army. Often, tech workers are very socially active. And Jeff Bezos said, well, it's not my business. We produce it, and then we can do what we want with it. The problem is that because these technologies are so pervasive, that explanation doesn't stand. We need to have a say in what we're using these technologies for. The bias is one big element of it. Bias comes in the algorithm for a very simple reason, because an algorithm needs to be fed data. And the data is historic data. That's what it is. So unless you're conscious and you say I have to manipulate that data, but the data is what it is. If I want to recruit an engineer and I look at the pool of engineers that I have, they're mostly men. So obviously the outcome will be male. Amazon, they were about to use a software for recruitment. They didn't use it in the end. But the software was only picking male CVs. Only picking up male CVs. But there is also another reason why bias emerges, and it's called labels and proxy. And I will give you a very extreme example. If I say to you, let's use a software, AI software for human resources, for recruitment, okay? And I say to you, let's identify who is the perfect candidate for a job by looking at what we like of an employee. And we say, well, the perfect employee is somebody who comes to work at 8 o'clock every morning at the same time. Is it good to say somebody who comes to work on time? But if your office is in central Paris, who is going to be able to come to the office at the same time? The white male professional or the woman with 3 kids living near the outskirts of Paris and having to take the train for 2 hours in the morning? I use this extreme example to show you that bias can come in from these kind of things. But if you have diversity in that group, somebody may raise their hand and say, hold on a moment, you're cutting out thousands of highly skilled, professional, amazing women who are living at the outskirts of Paris and have got 3 kids to drop off at nursery and will not be able to be in the office at 8 o'clock sharp in the morning. This is why diversity matters. And I want to close on one thing. Because of these reasons, because of bias, because of diversity, we founded an organization called Women Leading in AI. Not just focusing on the bias, But to say AI is much more than technology, and we really need to understand the bigger picture. And we are having our big conference on the 18th of November in London, so do come if you can. The important thing that I would like you to remember is that this is a transformative technology that we have, and it's going to reshape a lot of what we do. And a lot of it can be for the better. But it can only be for the better if we say we're not scared of it. We actually want to own it. In our companies, we want to say and have a say in the structures that decide how this technology is going to be developed. And we challenge stereotype as and when we see it. But do not think that you have to be a technical expert to be involved in this. We need scientists, sociologists, philosophers, thinkers, change managers, HR managers, everybody involved in these discussions. Because this is reshaping the way we live and work and think. So if we are not all together trying to navigate this, then it's just going to take over. And we are going to miss the opportunity to turn artificial intelligence into something that can help us achieve the equality that we've always wanted. So it's an opportunity, but we really have to be vigilant, careful, and proactive about it. Okay.